CTM. What's going on, everyone? Hope you're well and doing great on this formerly known as Taco Tuesday. Markets here definitely trying to price in the absolute chaos taking place across the world. Oil here after yesterday, Iran closes the Strait up $75. It's actually, is it Iran who closed it? I did hear the what's it called, the Irani, what's the name of their special military force, their guard. They made an announcement that the strait was closed. Obviously there's no one insuring the containers, the oil cargo ships going through the strait at this point, and likely for it to open up would require the backing of the US Treasury. But I'm not so sure that they want oil to, or they're so threatened by that at this moment. I was looking at some past occurrences of when we saw other situations. Let's go ahead and pull it up over here. Oh, that looks like a clock. This over here. What's going on, CTM? This is the price of oil before and after initiation of military conflicts in the Middle East and Northern Africa. And you can see the outlier here is the Yemeni civil war back in 2014 in yellow. We're looking at the Syrian civil war, also kind of an outlier, but we see things like the first Gulf War. Imagine the major uncertainty the first time. Second time, guys, I think that there's no question the situation that we're looking at could go on for quite a significant time. And as long as it's going on, the odds of oil going higher from here are very strong. And I think that the only thing that is going to curtail that is going to be some type of resolution, whatever that looks like, to this current situation. And I don't think that this is messy. I don't think we're going to have a quick resolution. Metals are getting smacked. Metals are getting smacked, and we are seeing and we're seeing as oil gets smacked that Bitcoin relative to metals is holding up. This is like 2 days in a row we've seen something similar to that. Do we read anything into that at this point? I don't know. Silver's still trading at a beautiful $82 and gold still above $5,000. It looks to me, I don't know if it looks like to you, but it looks to me like what we're seeing over there is potentially the Wall Street cheat sheet, euphoric move, and then everything's going to be okay. And that looks like a pretty strong bear flag setting up over there. Similar, very similar in oil. Hey, that green line over there in oil, that likely would see a lot deeper correction. I think a lot of people would be looking at 60 to buy in, and they might clean up the situation before it happens. Or this is not the move you're looking for. We have to have a breakdown from this current, what looks like a bearish continuation pattern developing in order for that to be triggered. Otherwise, if we are able to see the metals here consolidate and not put the downward pressure that a lot of people are expecting, that's just going to be a testament to the strength of both these metals in this mega bull market, the super cycle, as I called it, in March 2023. We will watch. Again, it reminds me of NVIDIA. And it reminds me of doing spaces in 2023. And people are like, all the people in their panel are like, oh, NVIDIA is going to crash and burn. And I was like, what? I don't know. They're putting up some insane revenue. I mean, this is nothing like the .com, and here we are. Copper is kind of in the news today, so I think we should begin speaking about copper. What do you mean copper's in the news today? Well, look at this over here, by the way. I'm not a head and shoulders guy most of the time, and I think it's just the neckline or the trend line that matters. We are testing a trend line over here. This is the area, all the hoopla about copper, Stanley Druckenmiller, best trade of my lifetime. Everything came into focus over here. And you've probably seen it. In case you haven't, I think I want to talk about it with y'all. And you could see that NVIDIA makes a pretty big investment. Boom, 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 boom. Copper's hitting a wall. Indeed, they are absolutely insatiable demand for it. But check this out. NVIDIA and AMD are both backing the optical interconnect company with 500 million. They're admitting, guys, I heard Elon talking about this on a Moonshot podcast a few weeks ago, and he was talking about as he builds his solar array out in the atmosphere that they're going to be using optical connections to be able to pass that data on to each other. And they're admitting the electrical link between chips is now the bottleneck, yada, yada, yada. And then we're seeing over here, that's at 500 million. Jason Longo over here is reporting $4 billion into optical infrastructure, $2 billion into light, and $2 billion into COHR, because copper is dead at AI scale. So listen, what do you all think? I wish there was an ETF, kind of a basket of these two. Obviously, it's very easy to create your own these days, but what do you think outperforms this whole optical infrastructure, or do you think copper is going to outperform? And I would say over the next 3 to 5 years, and probably everything in between, that you would see the optical infrastructure outperform. Now, granted, when there's an announcement of such investments, things pop. You could see 22% yesterday on the news alone, AAOI. But I think that this is something to look for those that are interested in skating to where the puck is, right? In seeing, Stanley Druckenmiller talks about most people aren't, when they're making investments, are not looking at where things are going to be in 6 months. Now, over the next 6 months, guys, I don't know where we're going to be in 6 months, but I can say that there's going to be a big need and a big use of this. At least that's the way I see it. Before we get into some other things today, and I think the story of the day is obviously oil, why we started with oil. And then you look over also at the 10-year. And after the big pop just kind of retracing a little bit. We'll see if it's able to hold above 4% and whether or not it finds its footing, or whether or not we run into some type of uh, pop up into neutral and then resume back down. Dun, 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 dun. Nice, Daniel. QCLS. Look, the only thing I could find, so as far as gold, I mean, monetary restart is happening. Is it weird to see in the last 2 days, and 2 days is nothing? Is it weird to see in the last 2 days that gold has been not responding well, and we've seen Bitcoin showing relative strength against gold? I think that's a little strange. I think we could just look up over here and just get a view of that very quickly. And I'll come back to this because I want to talk about that and look at that with you. But here we have gold versus Bitcoin. And again, the trend has been significantly favoring gold. I'm trying to go back to 2023. Interesting though, right? This is where I call the super cycle of gold. And versus the dollar, gold has gotten absolutely wrecked and demolished. I mean, gold is wrecking and absolutely demolishing the dollar. But here versus Bitcoin, we're back exactly to where we were right here. Look at this. I don't know. It's interesting. Let's figure it out and let's see what we're looking at over here. And here's copper. So I want to look at gold. And let me come to a 3-day chart. It's a little bit easier. This is where we talk about the breakout of the gold super cycle. And gold is at $2,000. It's now at 5,000 US dollars. It's been actually a major super cycle. And if you go look at what we were just looking at versus Bitcoin in that same area, so that was March 2023, we're actually at the same point. So, I mean, obviously a lot has happened in between. And in between, you saw as Bitcoin entered its bull market, remember 17,250 December 2022, as gold has entered its bull, it made some absolutely tremendous gains versus gold. And then it's been going the other way now, which is really weird. Gold, I mean, oh no, it's not. Sorry, I got confused with the inversion. And then ever since 2025, gold, as Bitcoin has entered into a major correction. Don't forget, all of 2025, gold, Bitcoin just went sideways versus the dollar, and then it tailed off since October, right? And since that point, gold made major gains. But it's just back to where gold began that bull market. And if you ask what's going to outperform, what do you think is going to outperform in 2026? I'm with Bitcoin outperforming in 2026, gold. But we've had a liquidity grab up here, taking out that up there, but we haven't had the breakdown yet. Do you guys see STRC? STRC, how well it's doing here, holding above 100, collecting money today like crazy. It's going to put a further bid into Bitcoin as that is translated into Bitcoin. Druckenmiller's been short bonds and his timing was pretty bad. I love Druckenmiller. You all know who follow us for a long time. I'm a huge fan of Druckenmiller and his abilities, but where did he go long bonds? I don't somewhere in 2024. I mean, he's been long the 10-year for quite a while. I don't know. Hasn't really translated. It could if we get the breakout over here, and if especially after the liquidity grab, then it could. But that's a long time to be in a trade. I'm not sure. I mean, I heard him speak that he was sure. I don't. He changes very quickly his mind. I haven't heard any type of update since and in a long time. But if indeed we are about to see oil continue to kick up over here, if we're going to see inflation kick up with the higher oil prices, and if we do see some type of reacceleration take off sooner than later, all those things could contribute to higher inflation, and then the 10-year could certainly at least test the top part of that range. Right now, it just went from so far liquidity grab back to neutral. I put that yellow line over there for the next buy impulse. And then if I just trick it down over here, it looks like that would be the underbelly to watch for. I'm going to watch that. That looks like it would be an underbelly to watch for. So we'll watch that ahead. NASDAQ off its lows. Bitcoin off its lows, right? A little bit over here. Hold on a second, Jordan. We're sticking on the daily chart over here. A couple $1,000s off its lows. And the uncertainty of how long and the ramifications of this conflict are severely unknown. Kind of healthy so far here on Bitcoin. Able to hold above the trend line would be a very, very positive outcome for the price action that we're seeing today. We're currently short Ethereum and short Cardano stocks after NVIDIA getting stopped out, completely sidelined. We saw Ethereum take another entry on buy side boost and take a full stop loss, 3% over there. And then we saw over here on Don's once a day, 6 hour. Once again, that's twice being able to filter out these two, what were just losing trades here on Ethereum. So that's interesting. And of course, that's just a moment in time. But because Ethereum's the first entry, it could have been one that took off. And we've seen out of similar patterns over here. I remember the summer of 2022. Ethereum put in a 50-60% gain out of a similar pattern on just a quick bounce over here. So Ethereum here, significantly off its high, is going to continue to be able to push. Solana looks like it's getting potentially ready to bottom as well. If you look at Solana, it looks like that it is also on the verge or getting ready to be kicking off on the buy side. I think this is interesting, and I want to take a look at it with you all. Not this so much, but I was looking at some. Let's go ahead and jump over. I'm going to look at two things with you. I want to look at some of those 2026 stocks that I thought were going to be interesting, as well as the first quarter of 2026. Before we do, let's look at the Mag 7. This is an ETF, Roundhill Mags, and you can see that right now it is off 12%. I think it's interesting to me. And again, obviously S&P 500 under pressure the last couple of days. But if you go back just to last week, on Friday, we were talking about S&P 500 off 2%. And we saw the likes of Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, all in Tesla in pretty substantial drawdowns. And either that is a healthy sign of the market, or we're about to enter into a deeper correction, obviously. Right now, you could see that I'm looking at a combination of the Magnificent Seven off 12%. Just for some reference, back in the April, the April tariff debacle, off 33%. If you look at Microsoft and what it was able to do, and I want to look at the because I think it's a great time to begin leaning into the Magnificent Seven. Now, the amount of the drawdown could be significantly more. If you look at what happened here during the bear market of 2022, Microsoft was off 40%. During April, it was off only 25%. And right now, after that double top, it's off 30%. So a 30% correction on Microsoft seems worthy to begin nibbling. Now, the one thing I don't like about Microsoft's situation is that it is highly dependent on the success of OpenAI. But guess who else is becoming dependent on the success of OpenAI? The Department of War. And we know that the Department of War just dropped Anthropic. They were using Claude, and now they're looking to step into or making I heard that there's an agreement between OpenAI, Sam Altman, and the Department of War. So if the U.S. government is relying on the model, that might make things a little bit easier. 47% of Azure revenue coming from OpenAI. That makes Microsoft, I would say, pretty dependent on the outcome. And by the way, another one that's wrapped up in all that is Oracle. And man, look at that. Here's the whole, the whole Wall Street euphoric move. Boom. Look at the same pattern that is developing on gold, right? And then the massive, massive. Are you getting close to bottoming on Oracle? I don't know. I think it's the weakest link in all of this. You look at the 43% bear market. You look at the April. This is into April. Another 40%. And now off of that mega high, it's off 60%. If OpenAI succeeds, there's a strong likelihood Oracle's going to succeed. Oracle is also talking about right now giving providing access to, let's just call it, I'll call it S&P 500 enterprise databases for all these LLM models. They're saying basically all these models have been trained on the same data. Now, why this is true, at the same time, I would say Larry Ellison is also in a pickle. It's not looking so good for him in this moment. And of course he's going to come out and say things that sound good, and it does sound good, but at the same time, he's basically saying that without giving these models access to what the data is, they'll be able to access the data and be able to search it and utilize it. However that works, I don't know. And I'm just looking here at some underbelly is popping up for Oracle right now. So that might be something to keep an eye on. Again, a little bit higher risk, higher reward over there. Google, let's just take a look over here. And then you can see Google during the bear market of 2022. Look at that massive 44% drawdown for Google. They don't happen often. Here you have a 30% drawdown, and currently over here only a 15. The relative strength of Google, and rightfully so. I think they're doing a fantastic job in the whole AI race. Google off 15%. Warren bought all the way down over here. Amazon. These things look to me the reason I'm pointing out 2022 is to show you that in a bear market, these beasts could have a significant drawdown from where they are today. So I'm just trying to give a little bit of comparison. And then April was obviously a slaughter. So I'm looking at that as well. So 40 and 30% for Amazon. Amazon, I think, is also positioned very well going forward. Is off 23%. So of course there's room for a mega drawdown from where we are today. But when these beasts are off, is this the dip you're looking for? For me, it is. And I could prepared for more. But what about Nvidia? Nvidia got wrecked in the bear market. Nvidia got wrecked in 2022, off 70%. It got wrecked again over here, off 44%. And its relative strength here, pretty similar to Google's. And rightfully so, I think. I mean, is Nvidia's future to become something of the likes of Apple? I don't know. How much cash is Nvidia sitting on? I love how they keep making investments. I'm not really sure. And then we have Tesla, just to jump in and look at it. And you can see Tesla during that 2022 bear market off, just like Nvidia, wrecked 74%. Woof. And then another 50%. This was, what we saw in 2025 with Tesla was a lot of, let's say, politics involvement from Elon, who's done a good job distancing himself at this point, and now off 22%. Again, seems like a potential opportunity. And then Meta, we'll finish with Meta over here. And then Meta got wrecked over here, 76%. I put that tweet out around that time talking about buying leaps and just keep rolling them over. I had no idea we were going to moonshot out of it. And then you see another 33%, and pretty good over here. Meta's not doing so bad considering that they are one of the hyperscalers who are spending a ton of money and now going out of their war chest and beginning to raise money in the markets. And they look interesting. And if you remember, I brought up the whole idea of block over here, BLOX, and this is Nicholas Crypto ETF as a play. This is a similar one over here. This is looking at Magi, MAGY, and versus Mags. So I'm doing it a little bit different over here in this case. By the way, ever since they all peaked out over here in October, right? You could see that as Mags came off. Let me show you. Mags is just an ETF of Tesla, Nvidia, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. It's off 11, 12%. And you could see that at the same time. Well, hold on. It's not off 12%. Hold on one second. I'm using a start date of the 9th of October. And I don't want to. I want to use this start date, the 29th. I want to see from the high. So let me just adjust that really quick. Survey says. So you're looking at off 10%. And at that same time, MAGY, total return off a little less. So listen, this is a little different than the way I play blocks. And what I'm looking to do here, what I'm doing here is I'm looking to take an even investment between the two. I think personally, as I just showed you from my view, that, well, I think that these companies have put in a decent pullback. And for sure, they could go much deeper depending on what happens here with the markets and the future we're running into. But seems like an opportunity to me. And if we at the same time, an even investment, meaning that I'm going to get the growth if this is a dip and we are able to resume up over here and continue the climb over the years ahead. The growth will come from MAGS, right? And you can see over here, the MAGY is just paying a 30% dividend yearly. There's high risk. So it's not like, oh, just a 30% dividend. Now, I feel like, if you would have bought the high over here where we just looked at on October 29th, October 30th, and during this correction, a substantial correction on the Max 7, it hasn't been little. And yes, in a bear market, it could get significantly worse. But are those companies going to be here tomorrow? I think Tesla has an incredible future ahead. I think Nvidia has an incredible future. I think that Amazon has a strong future ahead. And I think that Google has an incredible future ahead. Yeah, Microsoft, it's kind of dependent on OpenAI. Meta, I just can't stand Zuckerberg. But the fact of the matter is that thing is a cash cow. And I think that, you know what? Zuckerberg might be the first that would pull back from CapEx spending. And he could do that. It wouldn't really make a difference in so much as that if they were to cut it loose, they're still going to bring in a gazillion baby boomer and Gen X revenue, especially from all those pharmaceuticals and whatnot. And they're gonna continue to crush it. He did it on his whole metaverse, right? Completely pulled the plug. They pulled the plug. They have forced to on Libra. Meta is about to launch another stablecoin though, as we speak. Well, in this year, expected to launch another stablecoin. So yeah, I think that I think it's a good opportunity, and I think that do I think that if these things got back to if they get back to all-time highs, the growth in MAGY, 20% is, again, they've pulled back about 20% collectively, right? So that makes sense. And is that strong? Absolutely. But more importantly, that's just paying consistent 30% yearly dividend. And then I'll have the growth coming from MAGS. So just a little sharing of what I'm looking at and why. I would like to do a similar play here with semiconductors, except that there's no way. I don't think that. I think that. Let me put an SMH over here. They could correct violently more, right? So for comparison, 2022, not so bad compared to Nvidia, right? 50%, another 40% during the April crisis. I mean, that looks ominous. It's probably going to continue to crush it, but this thing hasn't really corrected enough where that I would take that I feel like for Mag 7, I feel like, oh, okay, that looks like an opportunity. This thing looks like, you know, I wouldn't touch it unless it was on sale, and it's absolutely not on sale. So there we are. Here we are. Oh, I wanted to look at something else with you all. So let me jump in over here, and the relative strength of Bitcoin is interesting today. I like it. Clarity Act could be obviously a catalyst. Sailor continuing to be on the bid is helping. And there's a lot of inflows into the ETFs. So I think I have that up here. I could pull up for you. And I would like to view it before we move into some of the 2026 names. And then a refresh over there. But I mean, look at the last week. And you're looking at, $1.5 billion of inflows into the ETFs, and perhaps some investors are getting the knock, getting the call. I think it's a good time to invest here into Bitcoin, and it certainly seems as if it's a strong opportunity. We are very close to seeing a kickoff here on the buy side and across the board. So that could be the turn. Is this the turn? I don't know, but it could be. So let me just go back over here and look at some, again, I'm looking at opportunity, and I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to look at some of the names that I said in 2026 that I am interested in outperforming for growth names. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off in 2026 so we could get an idea. And these things, the first 2 weeks were rocketing. A lot of these names up 20, 40%, even more. And a lot of them have come back down to the beginning of the year. This iron, like I heard they're building out. I wish I could pull it up for you. A a major, I think the largest in the US. I can't say things like this until I can confirm it. Data center in the US. Obviously, hyperscalers are going to be all over that. Is this something that you're going to want to own over the next few years? Just zooming out over here. Man, Jordan, I wish I could have owned that at $5. Is $40 attractive? That's the guys. I'm interested in your thoughts. All right, sorry, I was just getting a good look at it. Jumping back out to lining up 2026. Rocket Lab, again, nice pullback, retesting I'm looking for relative strength. So on this pullback, iron is showing relative, no, it's not, it's back at the zero. ASTS is showing relative theft. EOS, is this an opportunity? I saw that. Is that an opportunity? Where do you think is going to outperform? Oracle or EOS? What do you think is going to outperform? Oracle or EOS? I saw an insider purchasing a major amount of shares at this level. Obviously, very bullish on over here. That looks interesting to me. But I have to ask myself what's going on with the relative strength. Right, as far as relative strength, this looks a lot healthier. Good call. Nvidia. So I have another question for you. ES will outperform Oracle. I agree. What do you think outperforms over the next, I'll say year, and because it could be different in 3 years? Nvidia or Tesla? All right. Again, a nice pullback towards how much we looked at the Max 7's pullbacks. Okay, these are in line. Nice 30% pullback. This one is put in a significant low. Amazon, Tesla we looked at. This going Sats. Jordan, why didn't you say anything when it was at $20 last year? What about this? SMNR. I wanna look at the balance sheet and I want to research this one. I don't know what's going on here. I want to research this a little bit more. So I mean, Tesla is going to deliver robots. What's interesting about Tesla is the whole dynamic between Elon's other corporations, in so much as that he's got, obviously, and you guys seen the massive improvement with the full self-driving over the past year, the launch of the robo taxis, and Elon has data that other companies don't have. We were talking about how Larry Ellison was saying that all these companies have the same data they're trained on, and not for Tesla. Tesla gets all the data of every single Tesla that's out there on the road, and one day will with the Optimus as well. But to power this thing, what's happening is, I think Elon is positioning himself to win, in so much as that, I mean, Bezos could be could be a competitor, but Elon goes through next month. Are they talking about a SpaceX IPO next month? Elon goes ahead and is able to pull off the SpaceX IPO, raise a bunch of money, begins building a solar array out in the atmosphere, and then powering data centers in space. He's got the energy equation figured out, and he at that point is going to be the big lead, the big winner. That's the bullish case for Tesla, and I could see it now. Its price to earnings is through the roof, and right now Nvidia's is attractive, and I would say that there's a, like, I could see Nvidia outperforming over the next year, but 3 years from now, who do you think? Going to be an absolutely enormous. Arm and Stripe expanded partnerships to let agentic AI initiate purchases. That's interesting and crazy that Stripe is that forward thinking, and all over that. That's wild. That's amazing. So that's just absolutely. You guys also heard about an AI also. This is improper terminology, but an AI birthed another AI agent, and then went ahead and opened up a Bitcoin wallet over the Lightning Network, funded this AI agent that it birthed. So now these things are going to be multiplying. Like, the future is going to be wild, whatever it looks like. And unfortunately, there's war going on, and we need to pray for peace. We need to really pray for peace. And I'm interested in this SMR over here. What do you think is going to outperform, Oracle or SMR? What is a woman? All right, y'all. Have a beautiful day. CTM strong. God bless you, everyone. I'll see you all back on the inside.